A speed of 600 kilometers an hour is almost twice that of a bullet train.
It began with German blueprints stalled by politics and ended in China's hands.
Once in operation, it will be the world's fastest ground vehicle.
Reborn as the fastest ground machine ever built, but what was once an ambitious concept has now roared to life. Over the past year, in sealed tubes across Shanxi province and beyond, China has been quietly pushing its Maglev Hyperloop towards speeds once thought impossible, testing in low-vacuum environments, integrating full systems for the first time, and inching ever closer to 1,000 kilometers per hour. This isn't just a rival to planes. It's a machine that could leave them behind entirely. And yet, hidden beyond the headlines, whispers suggest that China's real rail project could make even 998 kilometers per hour look slow. To understand why this matters and why the tests you haven't heard about might be the most important, we need to go back to where it all began. From Germany's blueprints to China's bullet. It begins not in the bustling streets of Shanghai or the government labs of Beijing, but in the quiet industrial corridors of 1960s Germany, where a handful of engineers sketched the future of transportation. Their creation was unlike anything that had rolled before it. A train that didn't touch the ground, that hovered in perfect silence, held aloft by the invisible grip of magnetism. It was called magnetic levitation, and in its early tests, it looked like something that could change the world. Over the next 2 decades, those bold sketches became steel and circuitry. By the 1980s, Germany's Transrapid prototypes were already gliding at speeds over 260 miles per hour. In 1989, the Transrapid TR-06 set a record at the Emsland test facility, reaching 252 miles per hour. A glimpse of what the technology could achieve. No clattering wheels, no grinding brakes, just a seamless surge of motion, as if steel itself had learned how to fly. Billions were poured into research, test tracks were built, and the engineering world took notice. But in a twist that no one in the labs could have predicted, the Maglev dream began to stall at home. Political infighting over costs, environmental protests, and a lack of unified vision left the technology stranded. The Transrapid was fast, but its journey went nowhere. While Germany slowed to a crawl, halfway across the world, another clock was ticking. In the early 2000s, China was racing to modernize its infrastructure. Highways were jammed, airports choked with traffic, and even its expanding high-speed rail network faced limits. For a nation the size of a continent, incremental upgrades weren't enough. They needed a leap forward, something capable of collapsing geography itself. That urgency led to a move that, in hindsight, reads like the opening act of a geopolitical thriller. German Maglev expertise was invited into Shanghai under the banner of partnership. The deal seemed simple. Germany would supply the Transrapid technology. China would build the infrastructure. And finally, in 2004, the world's first commercial Maglev line outside Germany began carrying passengers from Shanghai's airport to the city center. 19-mile sprint completed in just 8 minutes at speeds reaching 268 miles per hour. But beneath the sleek exterior, something far more strategic was happening. Chinese engineers weren't merely installing foreign hardware, they were watching, learning, and absorbing every detail. They studied the electromagnetic suspension systems, dissected the propulsion design, and mastered the precision manufacturing techniques needed to keep the train floating at high speeds. Within a few short years, China possessed not only the blueprints but the expertise to go beyond them. When the partnership ended, the roles had quietly reversed. Germany had pioneered the Maglev, but China was now pushing it toward speeds and ambitions that its inventors had never dared to attempt. The bullet, once forged in Europe, had found a new chamber. And in Beijing's hands, it wasn't aimed at prestige alone. It was aimed at solving a challenge far bigger than any single engineering project. Because in China, speed isn't just a headline number on a record board. It's the lifeblood of a nation that cannot afford to slow down. And that advantage is clearest on the Beijing-Shanghai route, where a flight can take 4 to 5 hours door to door, but a high-speed Hyperloop flying train could do it in under 1.5 hours, city center to city center, without weather delays or air traffic control holdups. Why speed means survival for China? For China, speed is not a luxury, it is survival. In a nation of 1.4 billion people, stretched across landscapes so vast that a single province can be larger than Germany, the ability to move people and goods quickly is a question of economic life or death. Slow connections choke trade, stall industry, and fracture national cohesion. And in the high-stakes arena of global economics, a delay of hours can mean the loss of billions. Even with the world's largest high-speed rail network, over 25,000 miles of track, China still faces bottlenecks. Conventional high-speed trains, no matter how advanced, remain bound by the limits of steel wheels on steel rails. Friction wears down components, noise pollution sparks local opposition, and speeds plateau at around 217 miles per hour in regular service. For short distances, that's impressive. For a nation trying to link cities thousands of miles apart, it's not enough. The economic math is ruthless. Time equals productivity, and productivity equals power. Every hour saved in transit multiplies across millions of passengers and shipments. A journey from Beijing to Guangzhou that takes 8 hours today could, at Maglev speeds, shrink to just 2 hours. That's not just convenience. It's the creation of entire new business days, new opportunities, and faster circulation of money and resources. Consider the Beijing-Shanghai corridor. Currently, the fastest high-speed trains cover it in 4.5 hours. A Hyperloop flying train could cut that to under 1.5 hours. This triples the frequency with which professionals, goods, and investments flow between two of China's most important economic hubs. For a government obsessed with growth targets and global competitiveness, that kind of leap is priceless. Inside the high-speed Hyperloop flying train. At these speeds, the enemy isn't the track beneath the train, it's the air in front of it. At 300 miles per hour, air feels like a wall of water. At 600, it's closer to concrete. The faster you go, the harder the molecules push back, demanding more energy, generating more heat, and threatening to tear apart even the most advanced designs. China's answer is radical. Remove the air entirely. Enclose the maglev in a sealed tube and pump out most of the atmosphere. With barely any air resistance, the train can glide forward with astonishing efficiency, reaching speeds no conventional transport can match. And here's the shift. This isn't just theory anymore. In February 2024, China's T-Flight prototype reached 387 miles per hour on a 2-kilometer test track. By October, engineers had successfully run it in a low-vacuum environment for the first time, proving that a full-scale Hyperloop system could work in real-world conditions. Just months later, in Datong, Shaanxi province, the project reached a new milestone. The first full integration of train systems inside a 2-kilometer vacuum tube. Officials didn't reveal the top speed, but confirmed that the results were in line with estimates. The plan is clear. Scale up to a 37-mile track and push towards 621 miles per hour in the next phase. Earlier ambitions had even hinted at breaking the sound barrier, over 2,400 miles per hour in a third phase. Whether that goal still stands is unclear, but even the revised numbers put China far ahead of any other nation attempting Hyperloop travel. The engineering challenge is immense. The tubes must be flawless. Any leak could flood the system with air and bring a train hurtling to a dangerous halt. Pressure differentials will push against every seam and weld. Temperature swings could shift the tube's alignment by millimeters, enough to destabilize levitation. And in earthquake-prone zones, the system must survive sudden ground movement without catastrophic failure. Stopping is another problem. At 620 miles per hour, a train covers more than 900 feet every second. Traditional brakes would melt under the strain. That's why Chinese engineers are testing regenerative braking systems that turn kinetic energy back into electricity, plus layered safety systems, redundant magnetic arrays, rapid seal emergency doors, and vibration sensors that can detect trouble before passengers even know there's a problem. If it works, the passenger experience will feel almost unreal. You could board in Beijing, sip your tea, and step off in Shanghai before it cools. No turbulence, no noise, just a steady, silent glide. But behind that smooth ride lies one of the most complex engineering systems ever attempted, and it's already being tested, refined, and scaled in ways the rest of the world is still only sketching on paper. The global race for supersonic rail. Once China's Hyperloop Maglev began delivering successful low-vacuum test runs, the rest of the world took notice. Governments, engineers, and investors understood immediately. This was not just about trains. It was about control over the next great leap in human mobility. The nation that mastered this technology first would shape the rules everyone else would have to follow. Japan is pushing forward with the Chuo Shinkansen, a maglev line set to connect Tokyo and Osaka by 2027 at 375 miles per hour, with test runs already hitting 314 miles per hour. Decades of precision engineering have made it a symbol of reliability and safety. Yet in the hard currency of speed, even this remarkable system would be left trailing behind China's 620-mile-per-hour goal. In Europe, the birthplace of modern maglev, progress has stalled. Germany's Transrapid technology lit the spark decades ago, but political hesitation and regulatory fragmentation have kept it from reaching national scale. The designs remain in archives, while China builds and tests full-scale systems. The United States holds ambitious visions but has yet to break past the prototype stage. Elon Musk's Hyperloop sparked renewed interest in sealed tube transport, and several startups are pursuing their own approaches. But while America tests short loops, China is scaling its infrastructure and preparing for high-speed trials on tracks stretching dozens of miles. Other nations are moving to secure a place in the race. India has announced plans for high-speed vacuum rail corridors between major cities. Saudi Arabia has integrated maglev concepts into its futuristic city projects. Russia is researching routes that could connect Moscow to its farthest territories in hours. The race is now global, and each announcement raises the stakes. Yet some of China's most significant work is happening where no cameras are allowed. Beyond the public test tracks and press releases, in a heavily restricted zone outside Beijing, sits a facility surrounded by layers of security. Officially, it is described as a research site. Unofficially, it is said to house next-generation prototypes, machines so advanced they could make even a 620-mile-per-hour maglev look slow. The details remain hidden. But if the rumors are true, when those doors finally open, the rest of the world may discover that the race was over long before they even reached the starting line. China's Hyperloop maglev is more than speed. It's a geopolitical weapon, collapsing geography and rewriting the rules of travel. Rivals race to catch up, but whispers from secret labs suggest China's fastest train isn't the one you've seen. If that's true, the race may already be over.